Hello everyone. In this video, I'd like to go through the steps for the first assignment on the Microsoft Access to practice database management. Some of you may already have the Access installed in your laptop or desktop. It's a part of the Microsoft products. So if you are unsure about do you have the access or not, you can do a search so in all of the applications for your computer. So you can just type access. And for I have it. And it should be a app installed on your laptop or desktop. Don't use the cloud-based like the access on the Microsoft Office 365 because for that version you may not have some of the functionalities available. So once you find the access, or you can use our lab computers at the school, all of the school labs, the computers, they have the access available. So open the app. It's very similar to other Microsoft Office products. So you have Black database, so you can start from your own database, or you can use some of the available templates, like for example, contact database, asset tracking, or student management. Those are templates you can directly use and make adjustment to your own needs. And for our assignment, I will start from a Black database. And when I'm doing here, follow the handout. So I'm following the steps in the handout. So Black database, which is different from Word or Excel. You need to name your database in the beginning of the steps before you can use it. So I will use our class and with my last name. And once you put the name and click on the create, so you will be led to the home, like the first screen of the Access database management. It's very similar. So Microsoft Access is similar to Excel. So you have for Access, you have different objects, because it's the database management. So initially, for a Black database, we need to create tables. To create the table, we create the structure of the table, then we'll input available data into the tables, mostly using the forms. And then we can do queries and do reports for the existing data. So there are four major objects under Access: tables, which will host the data, and then form to help you input the data into tables. And the data queries is like extracting available data from the tables, and the reports similar to dashboard. Okay, but first we need to create a table and adding data to the tables. So in the first page, you already have a auto-generated table one. That's like, the regular name. And I can add the different columns similar to a Excel worksheet, right? We need to decide, what the types of columns or data fields I want to track for each of my data object. For Access, when we create a Black data structure, we have different views. And this one they call datasheets view is similar to the view from Excel. But for designing the structure, I prefer to use the other view they call design view. I can toggle between the different views. For tables, I have two different views. So you can see I have the view available in the top left. Datasheets is the current, and I want to switch to the design view. So click on that. Before I can work on the design, I need to name my table. And this is the first table we want to create. So customer informations. So click on OK. And then from here, you can add all of the data columns in your data and their data type. The first one is already pop up. Okay, the access knows we need to have a identifier, unique identifier for each table to differentiate the data record. And this also indicated a primary key, okay, before the first column. Rather than using ID, I want to, because we'll have multiple tables, I couldn't have many columns called ID, right? So that's too generic. So I will call this customer. I will change the first column to customer ID. And sometimes I want to add a dash or like underscore, to make the name like one word. So that's save every time when we do the data queries. But at this point, it's fine. Okay, like, one word or two words is fine. So customer ID, and very important, you need to define the data type. If you click on the arrow, you have different definition of the data type rather than using the auto number. Because if you choose auto number, the access will assign like the numerical values 1, 2, 3, 4 to the data record. I don't want to use this. I want to have my own ID systems. I will choose a short text. For ID, you don't really necessarily need numbers, okay? Because if you use numbers, you enable calculations. But ID is identifier. Even we can use like 101, 102, but it's not really working as numbers. So I just use short text. That's the first column, first data field, and that's the primary key. And I can, if I want to use other column as a primary key, you can see here I can highlight and then click on the primary key. The sun, the image disappear, and you can assign to other field. But normally we'll define the first column, right? First data fields as the primary key. So I'm adding back. And then the rest of the columns, you can follow what we have on the handout. So first name, that's normally the information we want to track for customer database. And if you don't choose, okay, the default now become short text. Okay, I will just use the default and the last name. And also, if you like, you can add a dash or underscore between the different words. And then email address, and then gender, the street address, then city, and finally the state. Oh, to simplify the initial practice, I'm defining all of them as short text. As you continue to learn, you can make some of the data fields. For example, the gender, we know we only have, normally, right, we have two choices, female or male. I don't want the customer or, when they add the data, I can have a pop-up, right, like, choice rather than letting them to type in the female or male. So in that case, if you want a populated pop-up, like a column for the users to choose from, we can make the data type as a lookup wizard, right? Rather than the user type their answer, we give them the choices. So for example, for this one, I choose it to a lookup wizard because I don't have another table now and I only have two choices. So I will directly type the two choices, combined with the, with this data field. So I will type in the values and I only have two, so you can choose male and female. And then next and finish. You don't see the change under the design view, but when we move back to the data sheets, when we add data, they will pop up or as a choice column. Similarly, if you want to pop up the state choices, like 50 states, you can make another table linked to here, or you can directly type the values so they don't need to input directly. But anyway, those are the main fields we want to add for the customer table. I finished my design, at the initial stage. When you always can come back. Okay, in the future, if I want to add more columns and change some of the features, you always can come back, use the design view to make adjustment. And now I'm going back to the datasheets view and I will choose save. And now you can see it's similar to Excel worksheet, right? We finished all of the name of the columns, and now you are ready to add the data. Another rules of thumb is for data privacy and data safety purpose, we don't normally allow users to access the table structure directly. Rather, we use a form to let the users adding data to the different tables. It's really similar when you try to, for example, when you try to register a new user account, like Amazon or some other, like the online account, you wouldn't be exposed to the real table, right, from the company side. You don't really see, oh, how many customers they already have and they're detailed and now you can add your name, your account directly in the table. That's a breaking of the privacy and the safety, right? Rather they only offer you a form, right? Like the fields you can add your name, your email and other information, and the system will take your input and add the table, okay, behind the scene, behind the interface. So this is similar, but as a builder, right, we understand how the situation works. So I will show you how to add a data directly if you have the right, and then we can add all of the remaining records using the forms. So I'm using the first record, okay, like 3001, like 4 digits. And then the first name, okay, I will just use my own, for example, like Kun and Wang, and my email. Again, I can define the format for the columns, like, to make sure the email is a valid. You also can ask a validation of the email address, okay, before you take the data into the system. So I will just use, for example, blah, 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 maybe Yahoo. And the gender, see here, is not a direct, it doesn't allow, input, but you can choose from here because we define this data type in the design view. And address, you can put like, I will just briefly put anything, okay, again. And the city, I will put like Houston. And state, again, I will put TX. So that's the first data record, okay, I can, which I directly input. And now I can close, right? So it's always a good practice. When you don't use the table, you work on other objects, you close the current table to prevent we accidentally change, right? Override and change the, the data or the data structure. So first table, okay, customer. Now I will show you how to design or create a form to add more data into the customer. So now if you're looking for the handouts, adding a form is the step 7. Okay, on page 2 of the handouts, step 7, create a form to enter data into the customer table. To do that, I move my tab to create. Okay. Create is a tab we use the owner access if you create new objects, a new table, a new query, a new form, or reports. And from here, I'm going to open my table, like the current table, and now I will create a form. So this, because I have the customer table open, the system know I want to create a form related to the existing table. So I will just click on a form, and now you can see, we see a form pop up with the first record, first row of the data, right? With what I already input. And now if you're looking for the bottom, and it's showing you the data records. This is record number 1. And I will move to second. Okay. Second, I don't have, it's empty, right? I don't have, but I can add in more data from here. And currently, because I have the form open, the table open, and I couldn't really enter data. So to adding more data, and I need to close my table. Okay, so close it. And then I think I closed my form. I need to close the form. But before you close it, I want to save the change. Yes. And I will name it customer form. And now you see the second object, or is a different object on the access. So I will open this again, the first record, and now when I move to the second, now it's available for new input. Okay, for this one, I will do 3002. Again, you can follow the record we have on the handouts. Okay, the second one, I will have like Emily. And the last name. And then yeah, you can make up your own data, okay, but it needed to be something, make sense. Okay, and gender again, you select this, okay, female, and address. I will to save time. Okay, I will put this, and state is maybe another TX. So second, then you don't need to save. You can save together after you finish all of the 5 record. Okay, so continue to finish the rest of the customer data. The 3, 4, you need to move. You can move to number 4 after you finish number 3. Okay. But make sure you finish all of the other customer data, and then you can close. When you close, it's automatically saved. And now if you open your customer form, customer table, the new data should be reflected. Okay, like it's already reflected under the new customer table. Because I only added one more, but if you finish other 3, you have all of the other 3 records under the customer table. Oh, so that's kind of a demo of adding a new table manually and add a form to enter the data under Microsoft Access. I know this is not an efficient way to add a table and the data. We can directly import large quantities of data, but learning the manual process is still giving you the fundamentals of the access. So I will close here. Then now you can add another table orders and add some order data that's in the bottom of page 3 of the handouts. So I will briefly, so for doing that, we're going to create another table, so like you see this, okay, table 1, similar, I will switch to the design view and I will name this one the sales order. And again, the ID, I will change to invoice number. Oh, invoice number. And I'm going to change this to a short text. And then the second one will be the date of the invoice. And for this one, save. And this one, for data variable, I will choose the date and the time. And you have different format of the date type. You always can find two, like give more specifics for the data field, like data type or underneath. Okay, like more details for the data type. And I will move on. Now I want to know which customer placed the order. Okay, so this will be the foreign key help us to connect to the customer table and SKU. The customer ID for linking to another table, they must have the same data type. And the short text and the price. And quantity. So for the price, because it's a numerical value, I will just use currency and quantity sold will use number. Right, so when you design your own database, the data type should match reasonably with the column with the data you are trying to capture, or numbers or text and the size. If you have a short, like a text, or if you really have like a long, like a comments column, you can define it as long text, okay, or large numbers, and also like, other data, types. So after I finish these 6 columns, and the primary key will be the invoice number. Okay, I will go back to the datasheet view and click on that. Okay, I will just enter one rows of data. Oh, I believe this is like, for example, like 325. Or you can use a calendar. Okay, they will pop up. And this one will do the like customer number 1 and SKU. I will just do a blah blah. And then price will be maybe like 500 and the quantity sold like 10. Okay, so only I'm adding this data and later I will give this for you to finish. Okay, you add a form for the sales order table and add the other 4 records. Okay, I will just do one of it. So close and save. Now, finally, I'm trying to build the relationship or like between the sales order table and the customer table. That's step 11 in the handouts. For building relationships, so I will use this one, the database tools. Oh, you got it. You make sure the tables are closed because you cannot, I think, save the relationship while the tables are open. Okay, make sure they are closed and then click on the relationships. And you have all of your available tables. Right now, I only have 2. Okay, so you can bring the tables to work on, bring to the canvas, okay, to linking them. So I want to show all of the, the choices for the table because these 2 tables they share a common data field, which is the customer ID. So while we have a relational database, each of the table will track specific information related to our operations. We don't want to have all of the data in one table, for to avoid redundancy and prevent like data inputting mistakes or errors. So for customer, I focus on the customer like name, address, the customer related information, and the sales order specialize on the order information. So under the order table, for the customer, I only need to keep the ID. I don't need to do the name, address, because those data is saved in another database, so we can link the two. We can trace the detailed customer information by the ID if we can link them together, right? So this is a critical stage. We link the two tables. The linking can be done very easy, right? Because you need to identify we have a primary key and a foreign key. So we can do this linking by, you can start from one table, the data fields from one table. I'm starting from here, so click on that. And you can see I'm dragging and move to, my mouse, okay, over the other customer ID in the sales order table. Now I release my mouse. I don't want to enforce right now, but if you have more data, matching requirements, you can do this. Okay, but I'm skipping that and just create a normal link. Once I do this, later when we do data queries or reports, I can link the two tables using the customer ID, right? Do multiple table data search or data reports. If you don't have this one, you only can do data search from each individual tables. It's very similar to when we use the pivot tables. Remember, we checked one data like choice, right? Like create a data model, right? You checked that choice. If you don't check that one, you only can do the pivot table choice each time for one table only. But now all of the table are linked together. You can search data from them. Oh, so this is very critical. Once we create the SKU, we can link the sales order to the SKU table, okay, from the other side. Now I will close and save. Okay, I will show you the queries in the next assignment. So the purpose for the first assignment is manually learn how to create a table, form, and the connection between the tables. So you don't see here, right? After I created the link, you don't see any change in from the interface right from the home page. But if you click on here, it's saved already. Okay. So that's pretty much the first assignment, and I will help you to finish tomorrow in the lab. But this is as additional tutorial video for the first assignments.